Now, if you live in Florida, you might know that there was a community here called Midget Village, and it was all started by Russians. Well, if you didn't, don't worry. I did some digging. Let's get into it. Now, look, before we get too deep into this, all right? I know the word midget, all right, ain't politically correct, and we shouldn't be using it. They don't like to be called that, but that's what this area was called, so I'm gonna roll with it. And there's two parts to this story, so I need y'all to pay attention. Now, down in South Florida, where it's now Sweetwater, but before all of that, early 1900s, there was a guy named Clyde Andrews, and he bought a bunch of land so he could sell plots for people to build houses. Now, when Clyde was selling these plots, all right, they were selling, but they weren't like selling. But one day, a client came to him. They were from Russia, okay? And they actually were like royalty, but they were like these famous, circus performers, and they were retiring and they needed somewhere to retire. Now, as you can clearly see, they're all little people, but mind you, like I said, they're royalty. So they wanted to buy this land and kind of like build their own homes, kind of, fit for little people. Now, seeing that, Clyde wasn't really selling, Clyde went on ahead and sold to them, all right? And they did exactly what they wanted to do. They built a town, all right? It was literally a few blocks. They built homes. They had all kind of stuff, but it was all, fit for them. Now, this picture isn't, Midgetville. I couldn't find any photos of it. I just wanted y'all to, get a visual of what I was talking about. Now, over the years, all right, more people start joining the community. So they go to the government and say, look, we want to establish our own community. And the government, they said, cool, go ahead. So they let them establish Midget Village. Now, what comes with that is they get two, police officers. They're being sworn in right here. They had schools, libraries, bank. They had everything they needed, to be a town. And, they also had a fire department. They were like volunteers, but, Now, over the years, all right, with, big construction and, just things changing, people buying land and building new stuff, this place gets built over, all right? Like I said, right now, the area that this was in is Sweetwater, Florida. Now, on to the second part of my video, all right? But did y'all know in the mid-1900s, 1940 something, that Florida had the biggest, littlest city in the world? And y'all know what it was called? Midget City. Now, I gotta introduce you to Lloyd Crunk, all right? He's an Ohio native who had a hardware store that was doing bad, real bad, all right? It was the, mid-1920s. Wasn't nobody spending no money on no hardware. People was trying to buy some food. Anyway, seeing that his shop wasn't doing so well, all right? One day he was sitting at the shop. He said, man, I wanna just leave here and go somewhere, buy me a boat and do my thing. So he started like carving like a piece of wood of the boat that he wanted. And when he was finished with it, he said, you know what? I like that. This is going to be my new hobby. Now, seeing that Lloyd enjoyed his new hobby, he carved other things. Matter of fact, he went, a little bit plumb crazy, okay? He ended up carving the whole city that he lived in, and it started to take over his shop. But this is the thing. People started finding out about the, little town he was making, and they wanted to come see it. It got so bad that he actually had to start charging people to come see this. Now, business is good for Lloyd, but it's bringing a lot of traffic and his neighbors are getting pissed. They're trying to run a business next door. He tried to move it to his house, all right? His neighbors at his house started getting pissed. His wife was getting mad because he was ruining a flower bed, all right? So it got so bad that he had to build a wall around his house. He was running an attraction. Now, in the early 1940s, he moved, all right? But he was still, near home. But he really couldn't do what he wanted to do here, so he needed to move again, all right? And that's where Orlando, Florida comes into play. So in 1945, he ends up, coming down here to the Orlando area. Matter of fact, he was in between Orlando and Sanford in the Maitland area, right along 1792. Now, a lot of people asked him, why did you choose the name Midget City? Because he was actually going to name it something else like Rock City, but there was an establishment already in the area named Rock City. And he was like, people will probably want to pull up if they saw Midget City instead of Rock City. So he went with Midget City. Now, the reason why so many people were attracted to this is because the attention to detail that he did. Every little piece of this town was, first of all, done by hand, but it looked exactly like the area that he molded it after. And not only that, it had schools, residents, motorized cars, public transportation. It had everything. And it all worked. It was electronic. He even had a train that would come through just the business area, like the industrial area. And it would pick up stuff, drop stuff off. He was running his own little town. Actually, he became the mayor of this town. I mean, he even had cemeteries. He had cemeteries. Bruh out here knocking off invisible people. What are the names on here? Like I said, he had churches. He had, all kind of buildings here. He would have the residents come to church on Sundays. Bruh put a lot of time into this town. And I see why people would come to it, because it seems pretty interesting. But things get a little bit, weird. Okay? When he sells this place, all right? He ended up selling it, all right? He ended up moving to Texas, but he didn't want to bring it anymore. This part of his life was over with, all right? So he sold it to some realtors. And when they bought the place, they were supposed to move it somewhere. And they did. They moved it over by like the Highlight place in Orlando, and it ran there for a few years. But the people who bought it, they disappeared. And so did the little town. Now, there's a story where supposedly they sold this to some people from North Carolina for $1,300. I'm going to be real with you. If I was Lloyd, I would, find these people and be like, look, bro, y'all owe me more. $1,300? I know it probably was a lot of money at that time, but $1,300? Anyway, the people that bought this were supposed to move to North Carolina and reset this up. But right now, as of today, nobody knows where this is. And nobody in North Carolina, the internet, the people who bought it, you can't find them. This place just disappeared. But you know what I think, and I'm rolling with this, all right? So whoever bought it for $1,300, they pieced this thing out. They pieced this thing down because it was already a big thing. Remember, it was booming in Ohio. It was booming in Orlando. Well, Maitland. Somebody bought this to sell these pieces off piece by piece to make money off of it. If you have any information on where Midget City is, please put it in the comments. But I don't think I'm going to get these comments, because if the internet don't know, don't nobody know. But the more you know. Peace.